We're back. It's good to see everybody. I'm very excited to have you all here for this launch, our Fellow version 4.1 launch. And there's so much to talk to you about, but if you've been paying attention to the news, everybody's talking about meetings, right? You know, we're thinking here at Fellow, finally, people are talking about meetings. It's about time. And yes, we can help. So everybody wants to know how they can spend less time in meetings, and the time that they do spend, how to make it ultra effective. So that's why today, and everything we're gonna announce, is all about building these healthy meeting habits so that you can avoid meeting overload. So lots of surprises. The work that our product design engineering teams have done is super impressive. I'm so excited to share that with you all. And of course, our top most requested feature ever in Fellows history, we get to talk about that today too. So many things to talk about, and without further ado, let's dive right in. Hey Manuela, how's it going?
Aydin, I can't believe we're back with more product updates. The Fellow team always continues to impress me.
Yeah, I mean, so much good stuff today specifically. I mean, I'm so excited to talk about today because one of the interesting things is that if you've paid attention to the news anytime, basically since January this year, there's been a lot of talk about meetings. Everybody's talking about meetings. It's part of the forefront. It's part of the conversation. You know, sometimes I think that, you know, we started this company maybe a few years too early, because now is the time, like, everybody is talking about this stuff. And I'm so excited for us to be able to, you know, continue to add value and making everybody's meetings more productive, creating healthy meeting habits, helping people avoid meeting overload. And so we have so many things that we're going to show today that are going to help with all of those things.
Yes, and as people join us, thank you for writing in the chat section. We love to see where you're joining us from. So keep the comments going. We love to see them.
Yeah, super. Oh, it's always impressive to see how many different places people are joining from. So yeah, thank you for saying that. Hello to everybody. And yeah, it's time to dig in. One of my favorite things is, as you know, we have this canny board, and our canny board allows us to get feature requests. People can vote on those things. And today, the very first thing that we're actually going to talk about is the most requested feature of all time ever.
Wow.
We've never had a feature so upvoted so many times. And so I'm very excited that we're going to talk about exactly that today. I don't know, were you one of the people who upvoted?
I wasn't. People in the audience might be thinking like, oh my goodness, the most requested feature. What is it? We want to know.
Yeah, so we're very excited. It's taken us a little while to be able to build this. There's good reason. You will really like what you see and how much refinement has gone into it. So without further hyping up, one of the things that we like to say at Fellow is, as part of the meeting, creating healthy meeting habits, you have to make sure that there's accountability. You have to know exactly who's doing what and be able to track that. So up until now, we've had this situation where you could, you know, assign accountability through the form of action items, right? That's what they were there for, and they continue to exist. Sometimes you would run into a situation where an action item was one of those things that you didn't necessarily want just one person to do, but you wanted multiple people to do that particular thing. You know, I think about something like, everybody has to read this document, or, you know, something like, this team needs to complete this task, but any person in the team can be the one that completes it, right? And so there are many situations where there would be more than one party that could be part of the action item mix. And it's not something that we really supported in the past in Fellow. And so we had to be very thoughtful about this, because, you know, there's this concept of having directly responsible individuals. And we really wanted to make sure that we gave you all the controls to have the right accountability. And the way that we've built it together, and I'm very proud to announce, our very first feature that we're announcing today, we're calling it multiple assignees for action items. And so I love that you actually already did this for me. So you put an action item, read document X before the meeting, and you can see, because you created, it's auto assigned to you. And when I click on that, you now see this additional toggle here, which says multiple assignees. And so when I click on it, all of a sudden you get basically the opportunity to select more than one person. So in this particular case, I'm going to select myself as well. And when I do that, a couple of interesting things change. First of all, you'll see that visually, instead of a single box, there's two boxes to kind of indicate this is a multiple assignee situation. Both of our faces show up to the right. But in addition, we have this new little visual indication that says 0 out of 2. You notice that it now says 1 out of 2. If I'm curious who the other person was, I can click on it and it basically says Manuela has completed this item. And this visual indication shows me exactly that. So now I can go in and click this item as well. And when I do, now we see a beautiful 2 out of 2 situation. Yes, celebrate. Everybody's done what they were supposed to do. And it just does a really good job of explaining exactly what you want in terms of accountability. So one thing that is interesting, and this is how well thought out this feature is. So I'm going to uncheck this for a second. And I even have the ability to uncheck it on your behalf. And let me talk to why, right? Mm-hmm. So it feels really good to have an item checked off. Now imagine if I'm in a meeting and, I completed something, but you're not there. That day, for whatever reason, you're not able to join the meeting. However, you and I have chatted in advance, and you've told me that actually, yes, this is a thing that, has been completed on my part. And so this gives anybody in the meeting that ability to be able to check things off on others' behalf to really create a good record of what was actually done in the meeting. So this is yet another really well thought out part of this feature that allows you to basically have that type of control.
Wow, I love this, Aydin. And I can already see myself using it for some of our asynchronous meetings where I like to ask my team to record videos of their status updates. So I would love to, for example, create an action item here saying record a video on your OKRs and then assign it to everyone on my team. There you go.
Yeah. And again, with action items in Fellow, it's super easy. You can drag it, anywhere you want in the note. This action item section is simply just a suggested spot for it, but you can obviously drag and drop these things anywhere. So this is really nice, right? This, in terms of, we're very much in favor of pre-homework before meetings. This allows you to get everybody accountable for those sorts of things. But also, there may be different ways that you want to handle this. So for example, this one is record a video on your OKRs. But what I can do is I can click on this, this item. And right now it requires every single person selected here to be able to do that particular task. One thing I did want to note is if there's a bunch of people in your meeting and you don't want to select each and every one and go and do a lot of clicking through items, what you can also do is you can check this box here. So you can see this all note users item here will allow you to select everybody who's in the note as an option to quickly do that particular thing. And then there's also an unassign all. Again, product teams thought of everything. It's very impressive. But the thing that I wanted to draw your attention to was this item here. So when I click on any, you see the action item actually changes. It's still assigned to both of us in this particular case. But in this case, you and I are a team, anybody could, check this off. And it really depends on, the system and the particular situation, but we're giving you the utmost control so you can decide what makes more sense for your multiple assignee project. The other thing I want to mention is one of the really nice things about Fellow is that, Fellow is a product used by people from all walks of life, right? Whether you are a single person, sole proprietorship, or you are a company with tens of thousands of employees, Fellow has customers all across. So when we think about things like this, we also think about all the different use cases. So some of the, we think about the ease of use from a single person's perspective, right? Hence these visual indications and all the thought process that goes through it, but also the enterprise-grade functionality. So one of the things that we thought about is we want to support different company viewpoints. So if you work at a company and you're the CEO of that company and you say, well, in my company, I don't want to, for example, allow for the any option. So this any option that we clicked on, that's not a thing that we want to support. We've also built all these workspace settings, and I'll show you the setting for this one in particular, where you can actually turn that off, and then you won't have the complete by any action items. So again, lots of thought gone into producing this. And I'm, very excited to actually make this live. And actually, the product managers worked with a lot of our customers on this one, right?
Yes. So I heard from their product managers that there was a group of users who were particularly helpful in providing feedback about this feature to assign multiple assignees for action items. So we did want to give those users a shout out today because we really love when you all give us feedback and share your ideas with us. So a special shout out today goes to David Mason, Mauricio Vasquez, Melanie Self, Liz Eimer, and Max D'Ambrosio for sharing your feedback and your thoughts with our product managers.
Yeah, thank you to you all. I mean, this is how these features are able to be as refined as they are on launch, is we do a lot of work, and thank you for working with us on this. And of course, this is all still a work in progress. Everything we do is a work in progress. Please keep the feedback coming. We listen and we love it. And this is how this product continues to provide a lot of utility for all of our users. So,
And one thing that I was thinking about is, as a productivity company, we obviously care a lot about saving time, right? We want to save time in meetings. We want meetings to be more efficient. And I can see how this feature really helps managers save time in meetings by allowing them to assign action items faster.
yeah, and this is true, right? It's funny because we would get this feature request all the time. People would message us and we'd say, well, I mean, you can kind of hack that functionality by copying and pasting the same action item, 7 times if there's 7 people in the meeting. And people used to do stuff like that. But of course, the problem with that is that your note looks it can, start to look a little overwhelming. There's just a lot going on. And you had to do it, copy and paste it multiple times. And so it just wasn't convenient. And so I think Fellow's all about creating the healthy meeting workflows, and then the things that you want to do the most often. We want to make it super easy to do those things. And this is why, right? People ask us, what is the core of Fellow? And we are a purpose-built tool to make meetings effective, right? And so this is just this purpose-built functionality, and you can expect a lot more of this from us as we go forward.
Okay, so if this was the first feature in this launch, I don't know what to expect next.
Yeah, we're just always shipping new things. And so I'm very excited to show you the next one. One of my favorite quotes is this quote that says, how you do anything is how you do everything. And so one of the things is, if you want to have healthy meeting habits, you can't only have healthy meeting habits internally. You want to be able to have all those healthy meeting habits with organizations that you work with. Now, maybe some of those are, external partners, maybe some of those are customers, or whoever they are, maybe they're advisors. You want to have those same healthy meeting workflows, having an agenda in advance, clear decision makers, action items, the history of everything in one place. You want to do that with everybody. And so the thing that we've really thought about is, how can we actually enable that? And especially as Fellow has grown to as many companies as use the product today, again, many, many millions of meetings held on Fellow all the time. And if you have had meetings with another person who also uses Fellow, previously, what we'd have to do is we'd have to make you join as a guest on the other person's workspace. It was this kind of clunky workflow. And the problem with it was, you'd have some notes in your own Fellow instance, but if you were working with someone else, you'd have to click on some other link. And it was a little bit of a mess. It was a good solution at the time, but we really thought that we could refine this process a little bit more. We wanted to make it super simple. Right? If you want to have a meeting with an external person, it should be super seamless. And that's why today we are introducing a new feature that we're calling cross-workspace collaboration. And this is something I'm very, very excited about, but rather than keep talking about it, which I could do for hours on end, let's go and click on this meeting. So on my left, we have this meeting called External Partner Meeting. So I'm just going to go ahead and click on that. And as I go here, one thing that you're going to notice is that it says share with 2 external attendees. Nice little prompt. And I have the option, I can dismiss it if I don't want to do this. But what I can do is I can click on share. And as soon as I click on share, I invite those 2 people. And now what's going to happen is those 2 other people, of course, these are all other email addresses that I have for the purpose of this demo. They're going to get an email. So I'm going to go in my other instance. And
Mhm.
while I click on that, do you want to talk about what you would first use this for as soon as
For
this goes
sure.
live?
I was about to say, I am particularly excited about this feature because as a marketing team, we meet with a lot of agencies and external partners. And something that I find is that all of them are using Fellow for their internal meetings, which is awesome. But so far, like you explained, Aydin, we were having to invite them as guest users. We were inviting them as guest users to our Fellow workspace in order to collaborate on an agenda. So now with this feature, what I find fascinating about it is that we'll be able to collaborate in one node from two different Fellow workspaces. So it sounds very seamless, very easy.
Yeah. And this is what I'm showing here, which is, again, this is from my other account where I basically, added this in. And so this is how this feature actually works. Now, the thing that I want to mention is that we built in a bunch of things. So one of which, for example, is this visual indication that this meeting in particular has external people on it. So for example, here, what you'll notice is that it says that I am, currently viewing this as the external partner. And you see that that person has a particular icon there, which basically indicates that the person on the other end is an external user. So that gives you the hint. The other thing I wanted to say is here it says at the top as well, it says that another person has access to this stream. So there's these visual indications so that you know that you are now sharing this, like you're linking up the notes on your workspace for this meeting with the notes with the other person, and they're using this together. So one of the things that for anybody that uses a product like Slack, for example, this is kind of like the shared channel concept. You can have, cross workspace collaboration on Slack with other companies. And this is that same concept with Fellow. The thing that I wanted to say is that it does not happen automatically. You explicitly have to do it. And then once you explicitly do it, we have all these visual indications to show you that these notes have been linked up.
That these external partners can read the note and have access to it. That's
Exactly.
really cool. And something that I noticed as I was testing this feature, I assigned an action item to your external account. So it's cool to see that even the action item has that indicator that this is assigned to someone from another workspace.
Yeah, exactly. So that's there. The other thing that I wanted to note is say that the other partner doesn't even know what Fellow is. It's the first time they've heard of it. When you click on the share button, they get an email. When they click on the email, they can see the content. It's super frictionless. Right away, one click, they see it, the content of the note, and they don't have to create an account. Now, if they want to engage in, if you want to also collaborate and edit the content, they can then click to create their own workspace. And then in their own workspace, they're going to be able to collaborate on that note and it will be linked. And, we won't show it here today, but there's also the ability for you to, even for a particular meeting, have your own notes that are not shared with the other person, and then also have notes that are shared. And of course, private notes is another way to do that. So the idea here is we just want to give you the ability to take all of the great meeting habits that you have internally and also have them externally. And up until now, this is not something that was possible. So very excited to make this available for everyone.
And as always, our product team just makes it look like magic. Wow. I'm always impressed by their work.
Yeah. And so it's such a big feature. I feel like it needs some sort of a celebratory GIF of some sort that I don't know if you have anything handy, but if not,
Oh my God.
we can go grab one.
I always have games ready to go in Fellow.
Oh,
So
do you?
why don't we just
Okay.
embed
What do
this
you
one
have
here?
today?
I am
Oh,
mind blown by
that's an
this feature.
appropriate one. I like that. That is a good GIF. That was very good.
And
So
yeah, for our users in the audience, in case you didn't know, you can always embed GIFs in Fellow. It's such a fun way to make meetings more interactive and dynamic.
yeah, I mean, this is pretty awesome. Of course, like, comments, reactions, GIFs, embedding, spreadsheets, documents, videos, whatever it is that you have. We now integrate Miro boards. I mean, we integrate with everything these days. And so, and if we don't integrate with it, please send that to us on our feature request page. And with an upvotes, you'll see it in an upcoming product launch. So are we ready for the next item?
I am so ready and so excited.
All right. So Yeah. One of the things that is very core to us is, we care a lot about the relationship between managers and their teams. This is like very Fellow, right? We produce so much content around management and leadership. We produce Super Managers podcast, which by the way is I think like 140 something episodes and has really taken a life of its own. But, as part of this is we care a lot about that relationship, and one-on-one meetings are one of the things that are very, very core to Fellow. Obviously, we have a lot of data these days, right? So many meetings, so many companies use Fellow, and we get access to this data. And one of the things that we were super surprised about, and you were telling me this stuff earlier, I don't know if do you have the stats on hand, some of the things that we learned?
Yeah. So Aydin, it's really interesting to see that leaders and managers are aware that one-on-ones are the most important tool for employee engagement and to build trust between a manager and an employee. And as you said, like we've been able to educate so many of our users through ebooks like The Art of the One-on-One Meeting and the Super Managers podcast. But unfortunately, our data experts found that almost 60% of managers before using Fellow weren't scheduling recurring one-on-ones with their direct reports. So as a team, we really wanted to do something to help those leaders, help those managers build those great relationships by setting up these recurring meetings.
Yeah. And that's crazy, right? Like 60%. I feel like we've been shouting on the rooftops, one-on-ones, recurring meetings for the one-on-ones. I mean, this is, but 60% of people don't do it, which means it's ad hoc, right? And if it's ad hoc, you're leaving it up to chance. And that doesn't feel, you need stability in the relationship. And part of the, the process of like building a high performing team is these are just like some basic elements. So, the first question that you might say is like, oh, 60% of people don't do this, but not at my company. At my company, it's different because I know at my company, we do 100% of the time. So one of the questions that you might ask is, well, is this a problem that we have at our company? And so we wanted to, first of all, give you the tools to monitor the situation. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to show this feature to you in two parts. Cool. First, I'm going to show you how do we diagnose where we are today? And then I'm going to show you how using Fellow, we can help move the needle and see the diagnostic tools show you exactly that. So this feature that we're calling is basically the series of things we've built around this are recurring one-on-one functionality. So let's go to the meeting analytics section. Again, our meeting analytics section is pretty powerful. So when you click on your profile and you go to analytics, you can see a bunch of different things, but now there's a section called one-on-ones. And when you click on it, let me show you what it looks like. So at first, you get stats across the company, right? So in this particular case, it's our entire workspace. And I can see things like 90% had one-on-ones, how many of them were recurring, what the recurring cadence and length was, how many of them were less than 30 minutes, bi-weekly, or they were monthly. So you can have that kind of data. How many of them had notes? What percentage of them, were notes taken in? How many started with an agenda before the one-on-one started happening, right? How many had notes taken during the one-on-one meeting? And then you can kind of break it down into a bunch of different formats, including the ability to click on any particular manager or department head and see the stats filtered down to that particular part of the organization.
So helpful. I think that those of you in the audience who manage managers, it's such a great way to coach them, right? Into, hey, like, are you having one-on-ones with your team? What can I do to enable that?
Yeah. So super powerful stuff. And you now have this accessible to you. So I think this will give you a hint of how things are going. And then one of the things is, regardless of, you look at we want you to look at the metrics, but in addition, metrics are nice, but unless they're actionable and we give you a way to action them, then, there's still work to be done. So if you go to your home panel, one of the nice things about Fellow is that we have a dedicated section for one-on-ones, as you can see here. And when I click on, you see that our meeting doesn't have this because we have a regular scheduled one-on-one, which is great. These other two have this special icon. So when I click on Brian, for example, in this particular case, you'll notice that in this demo account, we have Brian as my manager, and we do not have a regular scheduled one-on-one. So When I go to that section, it prompts me about that. And I can click on set up now to actually set that up. And it makes it really, really easy. So by default, we give you a biweekly recurring one. And it shows me Brian's schedule so I can see when he's busy. I don't see the content of his calendar, but I see that he's busy. And it allows me to very easily choose a particular date and time and, save this. And once I save this, it's going to be synced with my Google account. And this is going to allow me to set up that one-on-one recurring meeting and continuously improve the stats there.
Wow. I'm very impressed with how easy that was to set up a recurring one-on-one writing fellow. And Aydin, I noticed there's on the left, I see it says bi-weekly on Wednesdays. Can you make that weekly? For example, if you're meeting with an employee who recently joined the company, or you want to have a weekly cadence?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's the default that we chose, but of course you can change this, make it weekly, make it monthly. Please don't choose annually. But these are the options. And again, it's all about reducing the friction. One of the things that we learned is in order to change behavior, and really what Fellow is as a company, as a product, we're trying to create positive change, right? And when you want to create change, what you need to do is you need to reduce friction, you need to increase motivation, and you need to reduce friction, right? And reducing friction is all about building the steps in the product so people don't have to go out into some external link. You want to create as few clicks as possible, bring it right there. And that's why we've built this interface in Fellow to allow you to do this in as few clicks as possible, all right within Fellow.
So helpful. And Aydin, I would love to bring it back to the concept of avoiding meeting overload, because our research shows that when managers schedule one-on-one meetings with their direct reports, they actually save time during the week. And I'll tell you why. Basically, when you don't have a recurring one-on-one with people on your team, they are more likely to interrupt you throughout the week with these ad hoc meetings or like, hey, can I give you a quick call type of messages. But when direct reports have a scheduled time in their calendar to talk to their manager, they're more likely to write down those talking points in the agenda and then save that time for that conversation. So overall, again, this all links back to the concept of avoiding meeting overload. So if you have those recurring one-on-ones, we guarantee you'll save time.
Yeah, I mean, this is another very, very good point. And so, yeah, very excited to make this available. And again, you've got the diagnostics, you've got the, the tools baked into Fellow. And we just want to get to a point where you want to improve your meeting culture, your meeting habits, start to use Fellow, and we'll do all these things for you in the background. And so this is the beginning of many things to come, but I won't tease out those other things coming. We'll wait for our next product launch for that.
So you talked about meeting culture, and I heard rumors that this next feature can help you improve your meeting culture. How is that?
Actually, that is true. That is true. So one of the things is, actually, you explained this really well. I didn't know if you wrote a blog post about this or not, but this concept of, obviously, meeting feedback is really important. We know meeting feedback is very important. And I love this kind of analogy that you have around meeting feedback and how meetings evolve over time.
Yeah. I mean, working at Fellow, I've seen how our product team really takes feedback from our users, and the product is constantly evolving, right? Like even today, we're releasing a new version of Fellow 4.1. And I've started to look at meetings as products. And I think we should all look at meetings as a product where our attendees are like the users. We need to hear their feedback. We need to ask if they are enjoying the product and then constantly iterate on them. So I've started to look at the meetings that I host as products, and I like to ask attendees for feedback on a recurring basis.
Yeah, exactly. And this is how you get those version upgrades. So one thing that we have always had in Fellow is the ability to give feedback. And there's a few ways to do it. Of course, at the bottom, there's this how was this meeting, where you can click on that at any point in time. The other thing, which is if you don't know about this, I'll tell you about it, which is you can click on end meeting. And when you click on this end meeting button, you get the same dialogue. So the same thing that happens, it happens on all the attendee screens. So this is really, really powerful. If you want to get feedback, what I would say is, hey, everybody, take a moment to give us feedback, click the end meeting button, and then you're going to get this dialogue. But one thing that we haven't done in the past is we haven't really shown you in a really nice way how the meeting is evolving over time and what that feedback looks like over the course of time. So what's really nice is I'm going to show you something cool, which is our town hall that we have at Fellow. And when I go to the town hall, we have a feedback tab. And when I go to the feedback tab, you're going to see the analytics for that particular meeting. So in this case, you can see it's been largely positive, but not everybody was ultra smiley all the time. So that bothers me. I would like it to be ultra smiley all the time. And you can see how the breakdown of the responses is. And the other thing is like, how have things changed over time? Whatever we did on January 20th was really good because we got so much great feedback on that particular day. On February 3rd, I don't know what happened. Maybe not as great on that day, but this is useful stuff, right? You want to get this feedback because that's the way that you improve your meetings. And so very excited. It's a feedback tab available. And there you have it. Now you have the tools to constantly make those meetings better.
And constantly improve your meeting culture. I think it's one of our responsibilities as leaders, as managers, to make sure that people are engaged. And I think that meetings are a great way to do that.
So now that we've talked about recurring one-on-ones and we've talked about meeting feedback, which was the other thing, I did want to also mention some other cool things that we have built. One of which is we want to make Fellow very visually conducive to being followed. And sometimes you will have, meeting agendas or notes that start to get a little bit lengthy. And so you can see our talking points here, for example, are a bit long, right? Which is great. We want all the documentation, but sometimes this can make following the meeting a little bit more challenging. So what we've done is we've really worked on being able to make this a lot better. And so there's a new feature that we're going to announce today, which is called nested blocks. And so nested blocks, it's a very technical term and you don't really need to remember it, but it kind of is very descriptive on how it works. So let's look at this talking point section. You'll notice something new for the astute observers. You would have noticed that there's this little arrow here. And when I click on it, what happens is it collapses, which is really nice. It also shows me how many of those talking points are checked. So if I check that and I collapse it again, you can see 1 out of 5. So it kind of gives us a hint of, where we're at in that particular section. But also it makes it really easy to drag and drop, right? I can move that to the top in that way. I can minimize it and then, move it back down. So a lot of different ways that you can actually use the talking points. So one thing, for example, I can do is, move this, for example, to the top again. And the nice thing is you don't have to even collapse it in order for that to happen. You can see that I can actually move an entire section, and Fellow now knows that anything, and this is the key thing, anything that is indented acts like a child to the parent, which is like the unindented part. So for example, in this case, you see multiple assignees for action items, whether it's checked or unchecked, you have these sub bullets here. So now when I click to move this section, you see that all of the sub items are also linked, which is super powerful. And the reason this is super powerful, and a lot of our power users will maybe—
I was going to say, power users will know.
Power users will know what I'm about to talk about. One of the really great things about Fellow is when you have a recurring meeting and you create a brand new note, what happens is we effectively carry forward incomplete action items, right? So for example, if I have these 2 things completed and this is a recurring meeting and I go to the next instance of it, you can have those automatically moved forward. And so when I click on a new note, for example, or if I go to the next recurring instance, you'll have the ability to do that. And what's really cool about that now is in the past, you might have been a little bit annoyed because we wouldn't have carried forward the sub items. But now when you do that carry forward, it now recognizes that these indented blocks here are actually part of this parent talking point, and it will do a good job of carrying forward all of those things together, which again, I think is huge.
Yeah. And one thing I wanted to say, Aydin, I like to throw some management tips always. And one of the best practices that we've heard from lots of management experts for one-on-ones is also moving your direct reports talking points to the top of the agenda. And I'm someone who writes a lot of points, as you know. So now it's so much easier for managers to just drag all those points up, right? If the direct report has a lot to say.
Yeah, this is so true. And so just to give people a visual of this as well, I went to the next recurring instance of this event. And when I click on yes, it's going to carry forward the talking points, does a good job of taking all the nested blocks. And it only, of course, takes the things that have not already been completed. And again, like this one, it just depends on your settings. So if you don't have, by the way, this carrying forward checked off, you can always click on the lightning icon here and then check out your carry forward settings. And I have it set as ask me, so it'll ask me whether I want to or not, but you can also set it as always or never so that carrying forward happens automatically.
And just a reminder for our users that this is really helpful to keep your meetings on track and on time. So basically what we're doing here is you have a list of talking points. You might not be able to go through all those talking points in one meeting, but then you carry them forward to your next meeting to make sure that the meeting ends on time. So everything we're doing here is to make sure your meetings are more effective.
100%. And so, the other thing is I want to mention two quick honorable mention features. We won't go into too much detail, but just to give everyone a sense of it. And then before we pass it on to Shannon to show more things that come as part of this launch is if I go to my test meeting here, I just want to point out that now, if your meeting has a recording, whether you're using Zoom, Google Meet, MS Teams, that recording, we're automatically going to grab that in and we're going to put that in Fellow, or if it's meeting attachments. So these will exist. There will be a view attachment button or a view recording button that automatically shows up. And there's even a nice little notification that I like. Sometimes on my Apple Watch, I'll get a notification that, oh, the meeting video has been uploaded, and then I can click and watch that. So again, very particularly useful so you can have everything in one place. And then the final thing that I wanted to mention is just we've done some nice quality of life improvements. So now when you do something like, say, you want to link to Wikipedia or something like that, you can always provide the link. But now when you actually grab a link from somewhere else, let me actually go to a Wikipedia page myself.
I think I ruined the surprise, Aydin, because I pasted a link and it showed this first.
Oh, excellent. Okay, so you already showed it to us. I guess this is when you're doing live launches, sometimes we ruin the surprise. But basically, we now have these nice little URL pills that exist. Again, a quality of life improvement. Looks really great, gives you a sense that it's visual link, just another really nice thing that we've added here.
Yeah, it looks organized, makes the agenda look very nice, which obviously is always, we're constantly thinking about making the experience a delightful one. And yeah, I'm so excited about all these features, Aydin. And like you said, stay tuned because Shannon, our product manager, is coming up to show us one more feature. And after that, Aydin, you'll be doing a live Ask Me Anything, right?
Yeah. So stay tuned for the Q&A. I'm going to answer all your questions and I'm going to take a break while you talk to Shannon.
Sounds good. Yeah, this was amazing. Thank you for showing us these features. And now let's welcome Shannon to show us this really cool update. Shannon, welcome back. It's great to see you again.
It's so great to be here for another product launch.
I hear you have an exciting update to share with us that a lot of our enterprise customers have requested, right? Before we do that, though, I would like to remind everyone in the audience about an exciting giveaway that we have going on. So if you tweet or post using the hashtag Fellow41, you will get the chance to win a gift card to the Fellow swag store. So as you can see, I am wearing a very nice t-shirt right here. We have Fellow mugs that you can get. Shannon, is there like a Fellow swag item that you really like?
I have a Fellow hoodie that is very well worn. It's so great.
So yeah, for our audience members, I know a lot of you have been requesting, hey, send me Fellow swag. I want Fellow swag. Well, now is your opportunity. If you tweet or post using the hashtag Fellow41, letting us know which one of all these features that we've talked about is your favorite one or the one you're looking forward to the most, you will get a chance to win a gift card to our swag store. And then I know Ariana in our product marketing team is sending a link in the chat section to fill out a form to make sure you let us know that you attended live. If you fill out that form, you'll also get a chance to win a Starbucks gift card. So lots of gifts for our fellow users today, Shannon. We're super excited, obviously, to have them here. And now without further ado, why don't you go ahead and show us your exciting update?
So we've made some updates to our Salesforce integration based on feedback from our customers about how we can improve this integration to suit the way that they've configured Salesforce and the workflows that they use in Salesforce. So what we're looking at here is a meeting with an attendee who's a contact in my Salesforce. And you can see on the right-hand side that we're pulling in information about that contact, about the account, and deals related to that contact. And the new change that we've introduced is you can now send notes from Fellow as a note in Salesforce. So I'm going to show you what that looks like. So when you click on Send Note to Salesforce, you'll be able to select the object that you want to relate it to. So in this case, I'm relating it to a contact, an account. I'm going to quickly send that over. And then I can see this note that's been created in Salesforce and related to those two objects. And the reason why we made this change is a couple of reasons. You're able to relate the note to multiple objects, which can help you relate all the important information about that meeting. We can also maintain the formatting from your Fellow note to the Salesforce note, which is really great because it makes it easier for you to read that note within Salesforce. And then the last thing is, depending on how you've had your page layout configured in Salesforce, the notes will show up together, which makes it more easy to find that note when you're looking back historically at what are the conversations that you've had with the customer.
That is really cool, Shannon. And I can already see how this is really helpful for those customer-facing roles who are already using Fellow for their internal meetings and want to continue using Fellow to take notes for those external ones. So, wow, everything just works very seamlessly.
Yeah, we know capturing information about your customer meetings is really essential for yourself and for your teammates to be able to see the progress of the relationship that you have with that customer and what you've talked about previously. But building that habit can be really difficult. And we make that easier by easily going to the note that you have for the meeting with the client, quickly capturing your notes during that meeting. And then with a couple clicks, you can send that over to Salesforce so that all the information related to all the meetings you've had with that client are contained within Salesforce.
Well, Shannon, thank you so much for showing us that update and for making sure that our team builds such awesome features to make people's meetings more efficient.
Yeah, it's my pleasure.
So now, without further ado, for everyone in the audience, it's time for our CEO, Aydin Mirzaee's Q&A. He'll be answering all your questions live. So make sure you click on a button that says play now to join the Q&A as soon as it shows up on your screens, and we'll see you there.